Good evening. It's Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. This is the City of Franklin Common Council meeting. Madam Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Mayor Nelson.
Here.
Alderman Peccarelli.
Here.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Here.
Alderman Hassan.
Here.
Alderwoman Day.
She will be coming in a little bit.
Alderman Salus.
Here.
Alderman Craig.
Here. Excellent. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So before we open up citizen comment period, I will read, as I always do, the City of Franklin meeting rules of decorum for attendees and participants. Number one, for those attending City of Franklin meetings, respectful and orderly conduct is expected at all times. Disruptive or unruly behavior, including but not limited to clapping, verbal disruptions, signs, and outbursts will not be tolerated. For those wishing to speak during City of Franklin meetings, number one, approach the microphone when the chair opens the floor for citizen comments. Number two, state your name and address for the record. Number three, address your comments to the Common Council, Board, Commission, Committee only. Number four, limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. I'm the timekeeper. Number five, no endorsements or electioneering are allowed. Number six, speakers shall refrain from presenting unduly repetitious, offensive, threatening, slanderous, defamatory, or obscene remarks. Number seven, persons wishing to speak as a spokesperson on behalf of a neighborhood, subdivision, homeowners, condominium, or business association, or similar group with common interests shall demonstrate their qualifications to do so according to City of Franklin Resolution Number 2007-6227 before speaking on that body's behalf. Number eight, questions may be answered immediately by the chair or refer to city staff for a future reply in a timely manner. Those not adhering to these rules of decorum for attendees and participants will be asked to leave or will be removed from the meeting if necessary. And these laminated decorum and other rules are up at the podium as well. So with that said, I got to get my timepiece ready. Citizen comment period is now open. Anybody wishing to speak, come to the podium.
Orville Seamer, 3020 West Acre, 49-year resident of City of Franklin. I was here 2 weeks ago, talked about my $50,000 piece of paper, the piece of paper that I had no other choice but to sue the City of Franklin over open records issues. And it cost nearly $50,000. I want to clear up my comments from 2 weeks ago that $50,000 did not go in my pocket. In fact, I got about $200 out of that. The $50,000 was the attorney's fees. And I want to also say there are two people who are responsible for not releasing those records. One is attorney Jesse Weslowski, and the other is not here. I'm sure he's watching on TV, former Mayor Steve Olson. I want to say that again because it sounds so good. Former Mayor Steve Olson. I'm here tonight on items number 20 and 21, again, dealing with the same open records. I know you're going into closed session on this. These are public records. I'm going to urge you to release these records. I don't care about attorney-client privilege. I've heard people tell me that there's very little in these records that are attorney-client privilege. If the city attorney does not want to release these records, maybe it's time to get a different city attorney. Thank you very much.
Anyone else wishing to speak at this time? Ms. Gint?
Dana Gint, 9011 West Hawthorne Lane. I'm here to request clarification for agenda item G20, which indicates the mayor directed the clerk to create this report. I want to know who reviewed and approved the inclusion of 240 pages for the G20 item into the public packet.
I'm going to address that when it gets up to the item.
Okay. I want to express my concern regarding the misclassification of emails as open record requests. At least 30 emails I sent directly to elected officials and staff not to the city clerk, and they were never open record requests according to state statutes. So please advise who included them in the report. You'll address that later. Okay. These emails were from me, were standard correspondence with elected officials, and have been misclassified as open records requests that are now labeled as closed requests, despite no legal process ever being triggered. I have concerns regarding legal violations and misuse of process. Wisconsin statutes and city ordinances are very clear. Public record requests are formal requests that must go to the legal custodian, which is the city clerk or the director of administration, which was confirmed during the May 20th, 2025 meeting. The G20 chart violates this requirement and misidentifies open record requests. There is criticism and targeting of civilly engaged residents. I am one of a small number of individuals clearly being singled out in this report. This report includes my emails tied to the Ordinance Rewrite Task Force, where I served as the mayor's appointed citizen, which are now being presented as submitting excessive information requests to the city. If this is how the city treats civic volunteers and engaged residents, it reflects a troubling culture that discourages community involvement. Let the record reflect the facts. This chart indicates that within the last 25 months, I have submitted 39 official open records requests to the clerk. That averages about 1.5 per month. Specifically, my requests in the past 2 years were submitted for the following: 13 requests for audio links of public meetings that are not posted online, 13. 19 for event applications for The Rock, which the city was required to include in the public packet, but has not complied with this requirement for the past 2 years, violating its own procedures. 7 were for other Rock-related documents, which included the request for documents that authorize city staff to make legislative changes and ordinance amendments to the Rock without Common Council approval, which in this chart is identified as closed. Again, the average is 1.5 formal official requests per month. In contrast, there are 31 standard emails to officials and an additional 14 police for records requests that were wrongfully included in this chart of open records request tracking. Item G20 serves no legitimate policy purpose, and its intention appears to criticize community advocates and discourage public involvement. It lacks objective relevance, fails to meet the legal threshold of an accurate open records request log, and misleads the public. This is not transparency. This is harassment disguised as reporting. It is clear that there was a city-initiated search for specific individuals who raised concerns about numerous issues within the city. It is clear that I have been specifically targeted as the representative of the neighborhood adversely impacted by the city's pandering and constant ignoring their laws related to The Rock for the past 10 years. This is a direct retaliation for my efforts to shed light on the city not following their own laws and violating public trust. The chart misrepresents the truth, misleads the public, and worse, it paints an image of harassment and censorship. If this is not the fact, then why are dozens of my emails to elected officials included on this report when no one else's others? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gunn. Anyone else wishing to speak? If you're looking to speak again after former Alderman Wilhelm, we're trying to make this go a little quicker, so come up behind her.
Evening, Kristen Wilhelm, 3851 West College Avenue. I'm here to speak on 20 and 21. However, I do have to agree with the comments that were just made. As an elected official, you always get emails, and they're not necessarily open records requests. And I read through that, and I thought, well, this is really stretching it for an open records request. Kind of pressed on getting this together. Wasn't actually thinking I was going to make it here, so I appreciate if I go over, give me a couple seconds more. I realize your position, the pressure, and the need and the want to do the right thing. I can appreciate your time you're taking to understand items 20 and 21 related to the public records. For background, I've attended council meetings for 24 years, over 8 as a city commission member, and 15 as an elected official. I have never heard or seen or participated in a council vote for release of any records. And at your last meeting, you learned that a personnel and code of conduct matter were released without your council vote or your knowledge. Some of you, including Nelson, looked pretty shocked to learn about that. Mr. Pelkey is not a random blogger who was given personnel information and code of conduct information. Mr. Pelkey is the same individual who made the complaint, and he did not make his claims privileged. In fact, his allegations, true or not, were distributed widely by email and on the record before most of you were here speaking at the microphone. My memories seems to be a bit clearer than what happened at the last meeting. I recall the emperor's close statement in open session and document that went with that. I recall after citizen comment period, the alders received a company written reply mysteriously placed in our alderman boxes. The copious number of emails and on-record comments have already been circulated years ago. This means third-party individuals have been provided significant details. Third-party release is a break from attorney-client privilege. In addition, myself and two of the current elected officials were told on other matters that once the matter is closed, we have to release it because the public has the right to know the actions of their government. Closed session at this point is a disservice to your constituents because we won't hear why this matter needs to be treated differently than all the others. And it clearly is. I can speculate based on your last meeting that you will be pressured again with circular talk to deny the information. Maybe you will hear attempts to link this 2-year-old completed behavioral code of conduct complaint to current matters. You also may not know I was required to be the acting mayor for this matter. When the council president was gone, I was on rotation. Those present in the building at that time know this. And while I will be cautious on sharing what I'd really like to say, I strongly believe tagging items, especially ones that are not legal advice, as attorney-client privilege can be an overreach and prevents the citizens' right to know information of the actions of their government. This process doesn't align with past releases. It doesn't follow the once it's closed policy. It does not align with the public's right to know, Wisconsin Open Records, or the Sunshine Law. It's not setting a precedence, but it is giving one past elected official a special privilege to have his information put to a political vote for release, which no other individuals have been allowed. Also, no other individuals were privileged with an attorney, especially one involved in the process, making their case to protect their information. It's simple. You're the client. And you as the client have the right and the privilege to vote to release these documents, these 2-year-old closed code of conduct complaint documents. Follow once the matter is closed, release it. The public has the right to know. That is the proper thing to do with this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman.
Orville Seamer again. I want to bring up something not dealing with open records. Earlier this afternoon, I was going to meet a gentleman at Franklin Police Station to exchange a item that we agreed to buy on Facebook. So it's about 5 o'clock, and I'm turning right onto Putes Road from 35th Street going west. And as you all know, there's a number of neighbors that have been complaining about speeding in that area for years. And I can understand why. You'll understand why after I get done telling you this. There's a guy pulls up right behind me, very close, Toyota Tundra pickup truck, and he's right on my tail, and I'm going just slightly over the speed limit, a little over 30 miles an hour. That wasn't good enough for him. I get just past the woods, just before 41st Street, and this guy zooms around me on the right-hand side, which is illegal. I think it's still illegal to pass on the right in Wisconsin, and proceeds to zip around me, cut right in front of me, and just go a little bit further down the road and turns left. Now, it probably saved him maybe 15 seconds at most. Was that reckless driving worth that? So I'm asking you, as the common council and the mayor, to start enforcing some of these crazy people on the road. I drive up and down Capitol Drive every single day, 5 days a week, and I see the reckless driving in the city of Milwaukee. We have an opportunity here in Franklin to set the standard. Let's start doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zemer. Anyone else wishing to speak at this time? Going once, seeing nobody. Close citizen comment period. Moving on to item C, approval of minutes, regular common council meeting minutes of May 20th, 2025. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
I second.
First and a second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. We have no hearings. E as in Edward, organizational business mayoral appointments. I will read all 5. If there's any reason that we need to take independent line by line, speak up. If not, we'll try to get all 5 at the same time. Anna Adamski, 7825 South Stonebrook Court, Alderman D3, Civic Celebrations Commission, 3-year term expiring June 30th of 2028. Number 2, Christopher Dahl, 9949 South 31st Street, Alderman D4, Library Board, 3-year term expiring June 30th of 28. Lisa Marie Falico, 11343 West Mayor's Drive, Alderman D6, Civic Celebrations Commission, 3-year unexpired term expiring June 30th of 27. Kathleen Richard, front and center, 10252 West Deerwood Lane, Alderman D6, Economic Development Commission, 1-year term expiring June 30th, 2026. Number 5, Judith Williams Kellicky, 4901 West Forest Hill Avenue, Alderman D5, Library Board, 3-year term expiring June 30th of 2028. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
First and second. Seeing any further discussion? None. All those in favor?
Aye.
I didn't see that on here. Let's do a roll call.
Alderman Pecorelli.
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Aye.
Alderman Hassan.
Aye.
Alderman Salus.
Aye.
Alderman Craig.
Aye. 5 ayes, no noes, 1 absent. Motion carries. There are no letters. Under G1, a preliminary resolution declaring intent to exercise special assessment powers granted by Section 207-15 of the Municipal Code and Section 66.0701 of the state statutes for installation of a water main on the east frontage road of South Lovers Lane Road from a point of connection at the intersection of West Hurdle Place to a point of connection at the intersection of South Phyllis Lane, and setting a public hearing date for July 1st, 2025 at 6:30 PM. Mr. City Engineer Paulos, good evening and welcome. You've got the floor.
Thank you. So this project was part of the recently completed, or hopefully about to be completed, Highway 100 work. As part of that work, the city put in a water main along the stretch, and this is just for the preliminary hearing to get the process going for assessing that water main. It's about 8 properties affected.
And there's going to be a public hearing on July 1st about this, where this.
Correct.
And have notices been sent out yet to the neighbors?
And they will after tonight. It'll be
Okay.
published in the paper and notice will be sent out.
All right, Alderwoman Eichman, you have something on this?
So after the notices go out, obviously, then we have the public hearing. And those residents that live along this stretch, the 7 benefited properties, or how it's worded in here, benefited properties, will be able to voice their opinion, in which council can listen to and then make an educated decision based upon that, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion on this then?
I will make the motion to adopt resolution 2025.
Okay, so we have a council action requested, so I see the motion. We have a first. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Alderman Sluse. Any further discussion on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. G2, a resolution to supersede a state municipal financial agreement for improvements related to a Wisconsin Department of Transportation project on South Lovers Lane Road, US Highway 45, from West St. Martin's Road to West Rawson Avenue, County Highway BV, and increase the amount to $502,500. Mr. Engineer, are you taking this too?
Yes, so this is a project that's the city initially entered an agreement with the state, and the costs have increased for the path. So therefore, it's in front of you tonight to amend that agreement for the additional costs for the pathway.
Okay, so which option are you looking to have move forward?
Option A.
Option A, okay. Discussion on this one? Madam Director of Finance?
I just wanted to state that I was the one that put this council action sheet together, and I accidentally put the original financial agreements in there. So I printed off a copy so you guys could see what the new agreement looks like compared to the 2023 agreement.
And Alderwoman Eichman, you've got the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to note on here, it states the public involvement meeting number 2 to be held in May 2025. Isn't that the meeting that's being held tomorrow evening at the public library from 4 to 6 p.m. in the Phaedra room? So I believe that
Correct.
was just a simple
That's
typo.
Yes,
a typo. That was the original.
The original,
but it is tomorrow night,
right.
Tomorrow at the library, what time is it tomorrow at the library?
4 to 6.
4 to 6 in the Phaedra room?
Correct.
And
Excellent.
I'd like to state that's an open house style meeting. Sometimes residents worry that they can't make the 4 o'clock start time, and they don't understand that it's a come and go type meeting. There's nothing formal, so you can wander in at 5:30 after work. That's
Correct.
completely acceptable. Thank you.
Excellent. Would you like to make that? Oh, Mr. City Attorney, could somebody hit the button? Look at that, you're on.
With regard to the resolution, would suggest in the be it resolved,
Excuse me, sir. It's 6:51 PM. Alderwoman Day is at her seat. Thank you.
with regard to the be it resolved, that it specifically state this agreement is approved and authorize the mayor, city clerk, and director of finance to sign same.
Okay, Mr. Peccarelli?
So we had the original estimate, came in higher. What drove it being higher?
I can only speculate, it was before my time here, but I'm assuming just as a lot of construction costs have increased dramatically over the last few years. Assuming it has a lot to do with it, and those are probably more realistic dollars in today's climate.
Because the original estimate was in 2023,
Correct.
correct? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have an amended motion by the city attorney. Is there a motion then to make that move forward per the city attorney's motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
We have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll abstain since I didn't hear the discussion.
Okay, we've got 5 ayes, no nos, 1 abstention. Motion carries. G3, a resolution to supersede a state municipal financial agreement for the Foreign Infrastructure Transportation Alternatives Program, TAP, project for West Putes Road Pathway in the amount of $440,000. Mr. City Engineer.
So this is just simply an update to the agreement. Before I had a lot of the key dates to be determined. Now they have dates set as part of the council action sheet. There's no change in cost or anything like that. It's just more of an update on schedule.
And Alderwoman Eichman?
Thank you, Mayor. And I'd like to clarify once again, it still has not been determined which side of Putes Road the path will be going down.
That's correct. We have a consultant on board to do that study. That should be beginning very shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we've got a motion here. Is there, I'm going to go ahead and make this motion.
I'll make the motion to adopt the resolution.
Oh, Mr. City Attorney?
In the be it resolved again, I would have it state that the city approves the agreement and authorizes the mayor, city clerk, and director of finance to sign.
Is that your motion, ma'am?
My motion holds being amended.
Second?
First and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. G4, a resolution for acceptance of the utility easements for stormwater facilities maintenance agreement and stormwater management access for Ridgewood Reserve subdivision.
I'll make the motion to adopt.
I'll second.
First and a second, further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. G5, a resolution for acceptance of a stormwater drainage easement for Ridgewood Reserve subdivision.
I'll make the motion again to adopt.
Second.
Same two, first and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. G6, a resolution for acceptance of the sanitary sewer easement for Ridgewood Reserve subdivision.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
First and second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Well done, Mr. City Engineer. Forget your bottle of water. A resolution authorizing certain officials to accept a conservation easement for Damian Prisbilo at 0 South 92nd Street, tax key number 886-9987-002. Uh-oh. Are you taking this, Mr. Martinez? All right, Mr. Martinez, good evening and welcome. As our planning manager, you have got the floor under G7.
Thank you. Good evening. This is a request to authorize for the installation of a driveway for this parcel that is subject to a conservation easement. So this request is to release the easement protection for that area to allow for the driveway. And if this is approved, the applicant will need to submit a new easement document that will release that area that is going to be impacted. The impact is under what is allowed under the current UDO, so there is no separate special exception required for this driveway.
Staff support system.
Yes, staff recommends approval.
Okay, there's a motion here. Any further discussion on this?
I second.
Okay, did we
I'll
have a
make the
first?
motion.
So first, and now we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. G8, an ordinance to amend ordinance 2024-2649, an ordinance adopting the 2025 annual budget for the opioid settlement fund to provide personnel and non-personnel appropriations for eligible expenses by the Franklin Health Department. Madam Director of Finance.
Okay, so I'll speak on this briefly. G8 and G9 are kind of together. The city has received national opioid settlement funds back in 2022. We are slated to receive them until potentially 2036 to 2038. There's no universal cutoff as to when they need to be spent and or when we will receive them. That being said, there has been multiple meetings between myself, the police department, fire department, and health department to fully grasp the utilization of these funds and what we can use them on and how we can begin to start using these funds. The last couple of years, we have not included any expenditures in the budget for this, as we have not determined a full use for them. Now that we began these discussions, we just feel that it's appropriate to start allowing some expenditures to go within the budget so that the Franklin Health Department can start expending those funds as they seem fit. So the budget amendment would allow $50,000 for personnel and non-personnel in the 25 budget. Not sure at what point that will fully be used, but it is to be included in future budgets. And then the next agenda item will be more of the allowing myself to appropriate those funds going forward so that they can use the funds as deemed fit.
Questions, comments?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
First and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. G9, a resolution authorizing the Franklin Director of Finance / Treasurer to appropriate the totality of national opioid settlement funds received to the Franklin Health Department to address the opioid epidemic.
So again, as I stated before, there's no concrete deadline as to when these funds need to be spent. So that being said, between myself, the Franklin Health Department, Police Department, and Fire Department, we just deemed that the Franklin Health Department had the best use of the funds. And so to allow them to have the totality of the funds to use as per the appendix and what is allowed and what is eligible. And with that, we will continue to have the discussions as to what the funds will go towards and how they will be appropriated in the budget going forward.
I'll make the motion to adopt.
I'll second.
First and second, any further discussion? Mr. Pecorelli?
I just have a question on the funding that we've received. So how is it determined what kind of funding we get? Because, and where I'm going with this is, some years it looks like we got 70, to, 115,000, and then other years we're at 20,000, and I think through May it was like 4,000. So how does that work? Just from a going forward standpoint, I know we got 650 or whatever we're supposed to get, but kind of how are we expecting to receive that?
So initially, when the litigation started, it was only, I believe, Janssen and distributor that were involved. And so they had a timeline and amount for the city of Franklin as to how much we would receive and what that annual amount would be allotted for. That being said, then in 2023, there was some additional pharmacies added to the litigation that were not known in 2022. But now that the litigation is finalized, all of those additional, I believe, Allegra, Walmart, there were some other ones added to it. And we have official timelines for those and documents that allow us to determine how much we're finally getting now that the litigation's closed.
So it's a lot clearer what
Yes.
we expect.
And that was kind of why we were waiting, right? So we didn't have that until I believe it was finalized in 2024. So now we have a better timeline of when we're going to receive the funds and how much we're going to get.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we had a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. G10, an ordinance to amend ordinance 2024-2649, an ordinance adopting the 2025 annual budget for the Health Grant Fund to provide resources and appropriations for the approved 2024-2025 Alliance for Wisconsin Youth Mini Grant. Madam Director of Finance.
I'm going to be your best friend tonight. So this was a grant that was approved back at the beginning of the year. And so now we just need to appropriate the budget so that they can use the funding and receive the resources.
Makes sense?
Yep, I'll make the motion.
Second.
We have a first and a second by Alderman Craig. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. G11, D3, I like that, how that's put there. Resolution to extend for 1 year, resolution number 2024-8153, a resolution imposing conditions and restrictions for the approval of a special use for Lake Grove Place, a multifamily development with 38 dwelling units upon property located at approximately 3709 West College Avenue, Safari Homes LLC. Mr. Martinez, Planning Manager, good evening. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you. Special use permits, according to the Unified Development Ordinance, expires after 1 year. So in this case, the developer is requesting another year extension to get the building permits since they're ready in the project scheduling and getting financial.
And it was simply everything that's already been approved, just looking to extend it by 1 year, and it was already, staff supports that?
Yes, and the Plan Commission recommended approval after a public hearing.
Correct. Is there a motion? Oh,
I make the
Alderwoman Day?
Go ahead. I can speak after the motion.
Okay.
I'll make
First,
the motion.
second, for the discussion, Alderwoman Day?
Thank you. This is not to hold up the approval process or the vote. Just two questions for 2 points that were brought up at Plan Commission. There were several residents that came and spoke about this item that evening, and I know that the developer is not here, so I don't presume you, Mr. Martinez, to have the answers to this, but there were concerns about the property maintenance of that property, and I don't know if that has been reviewed or looked at yet, but if we could make sure that that is looked at for those residents, just to make sure that there's nothing there that needs to be taken care of. And then, do they have a projected start date? Are they anticipating that they'll be able to get it in
Well,
this year?
within 1 year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're anticipating that this will be their last ask for an extension, that they'll be able to break ground and start this year at some point.
That's what the project narrative says, within 1 year. Because
Thank you, that's it.
And I know we have a first and second. I've got to comment on this because during the Plan Commission, I also asked, and if this could be part of the follow-up, that somebody, whether it's planning or inspection, whoever would address the citizens' comments and concerns regarding, there was some downed trees that may be affecting some water flow issues, and that was an issue, and I said that I would be following up on that, so if that could just be added to Alderwoman Day's concerns, that would be wonderful. Okay, we've got a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. G12, D6, resolution to amend resolution number 2024-8222, imposing conditions and restrictions for the approval of a special use for Tsunami Express Car Wash, a car wash facility located at 6449 South Whitnall Edge Road, Tsunami Express Car Wash Franklin LLC. Mr. Martinez, you have the floor.
Thank you. This special use permit was approved last year, and the applicant's requesting the amendment to allow for additional site improvements. So they're adding a sound wall, they're also modifying a sidewalk, and they're modifying a handrail and a guardrail. Staff is recommending approval, and the Plan Commission also recommended approval after public hearing.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the council? Mr. Craig?
Thank you. I love the exhibits that were provided with this item, that there is a great deal of depth regarding the noise and how it will impact neighboring areas. I find it really straightforward and very easy to read, and I think that it's a benefit for everyone on the council to be able to see that as far as what does an approval look like long-term. With that, I would like to make the motion to adopt this.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. G13, a resolution imposing conditions and restrictions for the approval of its special use for an auto supply store use upon property located at 7251 South 27th Street. Mr. Martinez.
Thank you. This is the special use permit only to allow for the auto parts sales. However, the site plan is going to Plan Commission this week, so this is only to approve the use, is not to approve the actual design of the site.
It's use only. Excellent. Good way to describe that. Is there any further discussion up here? At this point, no. Is there somebody on the motion?
I'll make the motion.
Alderman Salus and Alderman Khan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. G14, moving right along, promotion of Mr. Joe Chitko to Facilities Maintenance Superintendent and related benefit adjustments. Madam Director of Administration.
Our superintendent of facilities maintenance is moving out of state along with his wife, unfortunately, because he's a great asset to the city. And we are looking to promote Joe Chitko, who has been a city employee for 28 years, to this position. And just asking for approval on that and the exception made on the defined benefit pension plan eligibility, as well as the retiree health grandfathering.
So I'd like to take that a few steps further. Now, when we looked at Mr. Chitko, who's been a longtime City of Franklin employee, we wanted to ensure that he wouldn't lose anything, wouldn't lose any benefits if he took this promotion. And a little history, he started here as a maintenance worker second shift in 1997? And he has worked at DPW, he's worked at Water Department, now he's looking to come back and lead the ship here. But there is some crazy clause to that he could risk something by taking a promotion. So all we're looking to do here is to make sure he doesn't lose anything by taking the promotion.
Correct.
So do we have a motion on that?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Good. Any opposed? No. Motion carries. I was going to ask for roll call, but we're good. G15, resolution to authorize execution of a 2025 MMSD Green Solutions Program funding agreement. This will be a roll call, Madam Director of Administration.
So this is a Green Solutions funding program that's available through MMSD, among other programs that they have. Currently, we have a little over $1.4 million to be used in conjunction with this plan. We have submitted project plans to MMSD. They have been approved, and we are simply looking for approval to sign off on the funding agreements of those plans.
Alderwoman Day?
Thank you. I have two questions. The first, on the Elm Road project. this had gone back and forth a couple of years ago on what we were going to do with this area. I'm very, very happy this is the direction we're going in. This is the direction we should have gone in a while ago. The concern at the time and the pushback, and I realize, we're 2 years down the road and there's different people, but the pushback at the time was that if we went this route, there was concerns that our current city staff could not maintain this type of system. Is that still a concern, or has that been alleviated now that we're moving forward with it?
Yeah, the concern was not brought up this time around.
Great. Excellent. I like to hear that. And second, and this might just be me not following the document correctly here. I'm not following the numbers. So we've got Rawson, the Rawson project, 729,000. Elm Road, 700,000 for the 1.43 million. But when I'm looking through here, in the packet with the things that we got from MMSD, it's more than that if I'm adding up the totals. So I just want to make sure that we have everything allocated that we need for these projects. And it could just be me not reading correctly what we're getting back versus what we have to pay in on our own. But when I was going through it, I saw the Elm Road project being 1.125 million on its own. When I added the costs together, that was on page 413. So it's the construction base of 937.5, the design of 135, puts it over 1.1 million by itself. And then when I was in the other one, when I add them together, it would put it over the 1.4. So I just want to make sure we have the numbers correct.
Yeah, I mean, some of this is obviously an estimate.
Okay.
So we would be able to provide stronger numbers as we move forward.
Okay,
and
great. I don't want this to fall through because I really want us to be able to use this funding for these two projects because they both have to get done like yesterday, so.
Yeah, this is this program, and when I was informed of the program and what it does, my thought process was, we know that there are water issues within the city. Let's fix them. And this is the beginning of that.
Absolutely, and it will help much in road area, so District 4 thanks you.
And I just did want to state that I think if you're talking about the budget pricing, that is what we submitted to them. That's not what they're reimbursing us. So the city will still have to come up with some sort of funding on our
I
side.
just didn't want it to be like way out of line and all of a sudden we're struggling to find where we were gonna.
Honor, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like to make that motion, ma'am?
Yeah, I will make the motion.
Second.
We have a first and a second. This is a roll call.
Alderman Craig.
Aye.
Alderman Salus.
Aye.
Alderwoman Day.
Aye.
Alderman Hassan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Aye.
Alderman Peccarelli.
Aye.
6 ayes, no noes, motion carries. Going on G16, adopt a resolution to amend the 2015 purchasing card program. Madam Director of Finance, I believe you were taking this ball and running with it.
Yes, so a few times since the initial resolution was adopted in 2015, the purchasing card program has been discussed at the Finance Committee level. However, it's never left there. And so I decided to bring this back after some further discussion with the Treasury and Finance Department on kind of bringing this policy more up to the 2025 times. That being said, we talked about it at length at the Finance Committee level and came up with some recommendations for an updated policy that I would like to present. Just a little backstory. Like I said, we put this in place in 2015. Right now we have 21 active card holders. It's typically department heads, and then we do have a few larger departments that have a couple other people on the plan. The program does get a 1% annual rebate. We get that quarterly, and it's only through specific eligible expenses. So as you can see under the analysis, we receive roughly between $2,000 and $4,000 a year in an annual rebate for use of the card. That's significantly low, but that's because of the risk and the fraud that we were trying to avoid. And we only have a $3,500 credit limit on most cards except one card in the police department. So the recommendations, I tried to lay this out as best as I could for you. The recommendations are in red on the council action sheet. The next page, because mine are not numbered. But the resolution is a clean version of the resolution, and then behind that, I have put the 2015 resolution, and behind that, I put the redlined resolution. So to just briefly talk about the recommendations from the Finance Committee, page 1, number 6, that specifically talks about all the prohibited uses. However, the mayor can approve some of these prohibited uses, and we just wanted to add, put the Director of Administration and/or the Director of Finance also being a approval level for those uses, specifically due to the gift cards that the Health Department uses and some of the other departments that use those on a grant-by-grant basis. Number 2 was page 2, we added letter N and letter O, so some more prohibited uses unless approved. Need to make sure that all services are from a tax reportable or 1099 vendor, and then make sure that all purchases from companies outside of the United States are approved prior. Page 2, number 9, we did add that after 3 occurrences of not providing receipts or documentation with your monthly statements, that your card will be revoked for 6 months. Number 5 would be page 3, number 4. We essentially striked number 4 and just restated it to state that the cardholder must contact U.S. Bank immediately and provided the phone number instead of just notifying the finance department. We wanted to put that piece in there because the cardholder is responsible for obtaining a new card themselves and then notify the finance department. Number 6, we updated page 3, number 8. This again is just outlining the tax exempt certificates, making sure that all purchases are tax exempt to the best of your ability. However, if the online purchase is not tax exempt, we will require proof that states that it is in the best interest and provides the best purchase savings for the city. And then number 7, page 3, we added number 9 to the resolution, which states that any returns or credits must be credited back to the cardholder's account with no cash refunds. So unless anybody has any questions, I just provide this so that it can be adopted, and it was unanimous by the Finance Committee.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a question as far as under recommendation under number 4. Full compliance is expected after 3 occurrences. The purchasing card will be revoked for a period of 6 months. So it's kind of like they have 3 strikes if they don't provide a receipt, or shouldn't that be after 1? That should be expected each and every time. I don't really feel comfortable giving them 3 opportunities to make a mistake or not turn in expenses, if I'm understanding this correctly.
Understood. So that was something that was all discussed, and all the alders up here could probably attest that that mistakes happen. You go to a restaurant, you lose a receipt. I mean, wanted to give some people the benefit of the doubt, but I felt that more recently it's happened more so than not. So putting some sort of limit on there would allow me to have a little bit more teeth in revoking cards versus, well, this person only did it once, because the language prior was at the discretion, right? So
Because most employers, for example, if you don't have a receipt when you turn in your monthly expenses, your employer doesn't reimburse you. That's just how it is. You have the receipt or you don't have the receipt.
well, it would be on the credit card, and it's not a monthly, it's not a reimbursement, so to say.
City credit card.
Yes. So these expenses have already happened.
I'd rather have it be 2 occurrences, but if the majority of the committee agreed 3, there must be
Well-
more good reason behind it.
You still have the floor.
I yield.
Okay, so one of the things before we go to Alderman, so what we talked about, and at the Finance Committee, was to put a parameter somewhere. And it was to start with a parameter. If there's an issue and it's a sizable issue that's a concern, there's an immediate investigation that'll take place, and this employee could be, disciplined, up to termination, all sorts of things can happen. So we're not just saying, oh, okay, well, you bought a TV, and well, just next time, no, this is everything is there, because I sign off on these every month, and I review them every month. So we just need to start with some teeth. I understand what you're saying, Alderwoman, but there are checks and balances, and this just at least puts an outline of what it needs to be.
I appreciate that clarification.
Alderman
Thank you.
Salus?
I have concern about the red lines in item number 8, like page 425. We are in the business community nowadays, like stores do not have as much resources we had before. When it says, all online purchases that are not tax exempt will require a proof that the purchase savings are sufficient to make the expenditure for the best value of the city to be submitted to the Director of Finance prior to the purchase, and the approval must be given. So in many cases, you go to the stores, the items is not there anymore. So the shopping online became kind of a standard. And to waste the time of the employee to go document that this item here, it might be in Racine, might be a $2 cheaper, and while wasting, hours of the employee's time trying to do the research. Like, availability of the item is the most important. I see that like a burden on the card users to go and document. That's I have a concern with. And the second item I like to know about is how many cards are out there. Like, I feel comfortable with the idea giving a card to the head of each department, and they need to buy something that I believe that the head should be able to give his card to someone to go purchase something and come back with the receipt. So the less number of cards out there, we want to be practical about it, but at the same time, we don't want to have 100 credit cards floating out there. So I'm just like, I wonder if you can.
Sure. So we have 21 active cards. All department heads have one card. The only 3 departments that have more, the health department has 3. I believe the fire department now has 2. They've just requested an additional one to make it 2. And the police department, I believe, has 5.
So total is
21.
21.
Correct.
And I wonder if you can address the item of number 8, which is about the proof that the purchase savings sufficient to make up for the tax exemption.
Sure. I mean, I can just address that in the sense that, we are a government, we are tax exempt. Again, I understand that things happen, expenses come up, it's quick. You have to, for example, I made this in the finance committee meeting. I'm at a conference. I use my computer all the time at this conference. It is very easy for me to use a mouse. I left my mouse at home. Instead of me trying to go anywhere else to try and be to be tax exempt, I went to Walmart and paid for a mouse, and it was taxable. So I can understand in certain extents or extenuating circumstances that will happen. But to your point, I understand as well, because when you're looking for larger items that may not be available and you have to pay tax on them because you're buying them online because you can't buy them in a store. My biggest thing is most online services, there should be no reason why we can't submit a tax exempt form to them that they will allow us to be tax exempt. It's very rare that happens, which is why I will say that if you can buy something online versus in store, then there should be some sort of proof as to why that online service will not allow us to be tax exempt as a governmental unity or entity.
Can we adjust the language a little bit to make it more practical?
I'm happy to discuss whatever language the council wants in there to make it more easily readable.
Do you have a recommendation?
Maybe he can suggest something, the city attorney.
I'd have to look at it closer.
What I'd like to do is if you could hit his button, please, and then I'm going to comment on it. So before we go to Alderwoman Day, to bring this, to get this, if this would have to go through tonight, which we want to get this going, perhaps we do it approving with technical corrections by the city attorney. I mean, I don't know how much more clear, you made it very clear what an example was, but that's what I would suggest. Mr. City Attorney, any thoughts on that at this point?
In conjunction with the Director of Finance and Treasurer.
Perfect. Alderwoman Day?
Thank you. I just wanted to provide a little bit more backstory to this item. We did talk about this at a bit of length at the Finance Committee meeting, and if you don't have the exact numbers, Director Brown, that's fine, but it was, when you were going year over year about the amount of money that we were paying out for tax on items, you gave us the number for 2024, which was.
It was like roughly $1,900.
Okay, and we're halfway through 2025, and where are we?
1,800.
So it is a problem that we need to address in some manner, because if there is a way that you can make your purchase tax exempt, you should be doing it. You should be looking first to make sure that your purchase can be tax exempt. There will always be extenuating circumstances, but you should be, as a government employee, making every effort when you're making a purchase to have it be tax exempt. And that, I think, is why the Finance Committee voted for this to have more teeth, because of those stats, it's not good that we've already met last year's total, and we're halfway through, not even halfway through the year.
Right, so, Mr. Piccarelli?
So to add on, and the language here is really, if you're going to two different, let's say, online stores, and one's, the item's $100 and the other item's, I don't know, 95 or 98, right? But one's going to charge us tax and one isn't. You're just looking at what the total is. The whole language behind this is what's the total. That's the intent behind it. So we might have spent some on sales tax, but our total expenditure was actually less. So that's what this language is trying to get to, is you got to look at what the total is to the city, right? And in some cases, you are going to get sales tax because the item is less expensive through that vendor, and so when you add tax, you're still less expensive than through someone else that we're getting the tax exempt.
And
Now,
that's when it would be approved.
correct, and we really want to be tax exempt even in the case where it was going to get charged, but it gets back to, there's a little bit of flex. We're trying to add some flexibility in here, but also be fiscally responsible, as the city, on those kind of purchases, so.
I just like to
Alderman
factor,
Sluse.
I just like to factor the cost, the time of, like, suppose you want to buy an item, and, if you want to send one of your employees to somewhere to buy it, and it takes half an hour to go, half an hour to come back, and it's just like the time that the employee have to spend, and if the item could be purchased online and the employee focus on their work, I just like to see that, the $1,900, I get it, it's a lot of money, but the amount of money the employees could, spend from their time to, to go buy something, I personally, sometimes I see the buying online save time and money because the item comes to your doorstep. Otherwise, it's not an issue that I'm dwelling on.
And I only just want to state that, this purchasing card program was put in place for incidentals, right? So we don't have a ton, with a credit card limit of $3,500 on average, employees don't spend much, and I can grab the stats, but they don't spend more than $1,000 a month. So, 2 to 4 purchases, I would get it if we were a large company that was doing hundreds of purchases a month, where they were constantly running to and from a store and saving online. I get it, but these are very small amounts of time that people are going.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we have a motion here, and Mr. City Attorney, what was your adder to this motion?
With the redrafting, per the discussion at the council meeting, by the city attorney and the Director of Finance and Treasurer.
Excellent. Their motion.
I'll make that motion.
I second it.
First, second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. G17, a resolution approving a partial property tax rescission and refund for tax key number 832-9925-001.
Make the motion to approve.
Second.
First and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. G18, Same thing, tax key number 928-1022-000.
Motion to approve.
Second.
First and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. G19, an ordinance to amend ordinance 2024-2649, an ordinance adopting the 2025 annual budget for the general fund to transfer $10,000 of severance payments appropriations to the senior citizen travel program.
I'll make the motion to adopt.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any further discussion on this? Alderman Sluse.
I mentioned something to the gentleman, Basil, I believe his name, when he presented last time. I asked a key question is like, they conduct like trips, he mentioned like 8, 9 of them on a yearly basis. And I felt that there is like certain number of seniors, they go in every single trip. Others, they go to few of them, others maybe go to just 1 or 2. So what, just to keep the program successful and moving forward, I was wondering if there is a possibility to say, okay, well, we'll give you 4, let them have the 8 events or 8 trips on a yearly basis, but at the same time, we'll give you 5 trips, we cover that. But if someone want to go 6 and 7 and 8 and 9, okay, well, maybe they can afford to pay after that, just like for the viability of the program long term, to keep it going and, giving someone a chance to go at 4 or 5 trips a year, that's plenty, rather than having someone go 9 times and others go 2 times. So just a thought.
On that thought, tomorrow is the monthly senior lunch, where most of these travelers also attend that senior lunch. I believe Mr. Ryan will be there, and if you would like to meet with him, if not, we will provide you his contact information. Alderwoman Eichman.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for the record, I don't believe there's 9 trips a year. That was mentioned.
And they did 8 last year, I believe.
8.
They did 8 last
8,
year.
okay.
But typically, it's been 4 to 5 in the past. I believe Mr. Ryan said that they increased it because they had that additional money from COVID that had kind of,
The COVID carryover.
yeah, carryover.
Thank you.
All right, there's a motion here. Someone like to make that motion?
I made the motion.
Good. Is there a second?
I second.
Alderman Hassan, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. G20, open records requests. Who would like to start this? Well, I can start it. So, in the just over 2 years of being the mayor, I got quite an education on the length of time that it takes these open records requests to be completed. And to quote our city attorney, it's not about the who, it's about the what. So now we look at what it takes, staff, primarily our city clerk, who's to my right, who I'll be calling on shortly to clarify a few things that were brought up earlier by Ms. Gent. That's a hint. So, to what, and the reasoning behind this, and the magnitude of the open records requests that are coming in by, daily, weekly, very dynamic. Some of these are a back and forth trying to get clarification on this vast request and how to respond and fill those in a timely fashion. And when I speak with the clerk daily, this is a big deal. And when you're looking at what the demands are of her job in general, then you are inundated, which is everybody's right, as nobody's disputing that it's not anybody's right to put in an open records request. Nobody is saying that. Nobody is picking on anybody. Nobody is outing anybody. The truth is the truth, what's been listed. And that is, and I hate saying this term, it is what it is. I despise saying that term, but in this scenario, it's extremely accurate. And it's when you're trying to and I'm speaking in turn for the clerk until she comments on some of these things, but we are trying to get the citizens, a community of 36,000 people, and to get their requests answered timely and go on, and I will touch base on a few other things after she addresses some of the concerns by Ms. Gint, because if somebody's on a board or commission and they have an email question, that is not considered an open records request. It is not. So with that, I gave you a nice lead-in. Madam Clerk.
When open records requests come in, I look at them, I send them to the appropriate departments.
If you could please speak into the mic and you speak up a little more.
When open records requests come in, I look at them. If they go to a different department, I try to respond within 24 hours to the requester. And I have a general response that I send back that says about the request and if there's a flash drive fee involved and all of that. When I send it to the department, I ask the department then to, when they're done, to send it back to me and to keep track of their time. Okay, we can charge for locating documents. We do not charge for redacting at all. We never have, or I never have. When it comes back to me, then if they say, let's say it's 2 hours, then I have a chart for the lowest paid person in that department. That's what I charge them. I times their hourly rate by the 2 hours or the 1.5 hours, and then that's the dollar amount that they have to pay. Sometimes I can tell when a request comes in. Jim does a query for me.
Who's Jim?
Jim Metelsky, IT.
Oh, our IT director, Jim Metelsky.
Yeah.
Got it.
I can kind of tell how long it's going to take for me to locate those documents by the amount of requests. Some of the requests lately, I have had like 2,000-3,000 emails that I have to look at, because I have to locate to see. Let's say they say John Smith. Well, some of those requests that come in from Jim's query doesn't have anything to do with the John Smith that they're looking for. So it's a process. It's a very timely process. I spend multiple nights and weekends reading emails because I can't get it done during the day. So then I send, this chart was originally for my personal use. It was not going to be sent out to anybody. It was originally for my personal use. And the problem also with Jim doing queries is IT is extremely busy with projects. So it's a lot of work for Jim. I mean, open records is a lot of work. I try to get them back to the people. I date them, so I do them in the order that I receive them in. I don't know what else do you want me to say.
Well, that's a great start, an intro, but then let's get into the point where, for example, there's people that come in and they request the records, they were done, and now we have a bill and it's outstanding, and then we're now trying to collect money for the time that was spent. And this isn't even a cost neutral proposition.
No.
So when government is looking at not being profitable, yet focusing on cost neutral, these open records requests you are losing money if you're looking at a cost benefit. So this isn't a point where we're using the lowest paid person in that office, and that's what the billing rate is. So when Madam Clerk is inundated with a lot of repetitious open records requests, and there are, this is, again, it's the what, not the who, but it's listed. And when she talks about that log is the norm in other agencies. That log is a norm in any other municipal government because you have to keep track of it, and that in itself is an open record, which is releasable. So everything we're dealing with is as transparent as you can possibly be. I don't know how anybody could argue anything but, unless they've got their own personal agenda. So this is where we're at with how our clerk, and the whole plan was because when I hear questions and comments from other electeds up here about how long something takes, or if this is going on, or where are they at, we hear X, Y, and Z. I wanted Madam Clerk to come here tonight. She prepared an excellent item here about how this works. Please read it. It's excellent. Brings out the challenges, the sheer number of these requests, and should put a lot of clarity on this.
And Franklin is unique. I've talked to a lot of other clerks and a lot of other municipalities. And one clerk said she's never had a request for an email, ever. And I get them daily for emails. So, I mean, Franklin has a lot of open records requests. A lot, compared to other municipalities, because I've talked to a lot of other clerks, and they don't have the volume that I get. Sometimes I get 3 to 4 a day. I mean, especially around election time, it's very hard to do anything with them, because my regular job comes first. This is what I do after my regular job.
So to add to that, before we go into the comments, or you've got Madam Clerk that gets inundated with open records requests, which is her job to fulfill, and she understands that. Nobody's disputing that at all. But then when you have numerous elections, now you've got to prioritize. You have other duties and responsibilities that you're playing that tug of war with which thing do you do first and why and when, as well as communicating back to people that have put their record requests in, saying, where's this, where's that, this should be real simple. And sometimes they're very condescending to her, and Madam Clerk understands her job and does it very well. And that's, I take that as an insult for you, and as I know what you do on a daily basis, and you do an exceptional job. Alderwoman Eichman and Alderwoman Day.
Thank you, Mayor. I have several things I'd like to mention. So is this, in fact, these open records requests costing average City of Franklin residents, taxpayers, money, correct? This is costing residents money, the open records requests in general. Someone's paying for it, for time.
Well, it's for an example, probably the last 2 weeks, I worked probably 80 some hours over my regular 80 hours. So, but I'm salaried, so I don't get paid for that.
I guess I was surprised and a little taken back at some of the comments that were made here this evening in citizen comment period, chitter chatter on, shall I say, some of the social media pages and so forth, where some ask for us to be transparent, but then you turn it around and we're being transparent, and then they're asking for us not to be transparent. It's very difficult to do an elected position where either you want transparency or you don't want transparency. That was a little confusing to me. You can do an open records request, as it was mentioned, and there's some in here. You can do an open records request on an open records request to see what open record requests are in the queue. I mean,
Oh, I've gotten that multiple times.
right.
Multiple times.
Just to touch base on what you were just saying, Mayor, I'm very disappointed in some of these requests of how utterly inconsiderate and very rude. I mean, I may have my P's and Q's a little bit better than some of the average, but there's no need to be mean and rude to the city clerk for a request. It's embarrassing to me of how rude some of these requests have come in. I mean, we're all adults. Use a little bit of please and thank you every now and then instead of demands and demanding things for the same day. I mean, that's just no comment on that. And I'll yield for now. I just wanted to bring up those points at this time.
Okay, Alderwoman Day.
Thank you. So I first wanted to start by saying, a big thank you to Shirley for, I know how much time you spend doing this. I know how much time your predecessor spent doing this. This has been an ongoing issue. I remember when I was a health officer and I would come into Sandy's office to ask her a question about something and see the boxes and boxes and boxes of open record requests that she had to go through on top of all the other things, and that hasn't changed. So this has been going on for at least since 2018 when I got here. So it's not new. I don't know if it's gotten worse or not, but it's not new. And I lived through some of the big touchy subject areas, the those that shall not be named in 2020, but I mean, it was a big deal then. So I don't think there's anything wrong with forward-facing them if people ask for it. I don't think it's bad that we forward-face them now. I guess I have 3 questions, and I think I guess kind of like what is it that you, either the mayor or the city clerk, would like to see from having this here? Is it because we're coming up on budget season? Is it something that we're asking that we need more staff to help with this coming in, short-term, long-term? Is it to make the public aware of the process, just to understand a little bit of patience, that this process does take a long time, and that the people that are doing this right now, this is not currently their only facet with the community to do these open record requests? I guess that was my starting point. Like, what is kind of the purpose or the end game for this being in here today?
I will start. So to answer, I think, all your questions that you actually ask questions, the answer is yes. Okay? So it's awareness. The awareness part of this is huge. And it's awareness not just for the electeds up here and the people putting in these open records requests, but also your normal citizen that perhaps isn't in this group that puts in a lot of requests, that maybe puts in one for the first time in their life and is wondering, well, wow, I put open records requests in. I wonder why it's taking so long. Oh, there's an election going on. Oh, there's this. Oh, there's that. There's got to be some, awareness, because there are a few people that put in a lot of requests. So they're very accustomed to how this process works. But there's many in this community of 36,000, and, opposed to the handful that are not familiar with it. So there is an awareness campaign. There is a cost. When I was an alderman, I asked Sandy Wesolowski, I said, as an alderman, I said, look, because she would comment about how far behind she was. And I said, well, do you need money? Do you need money for overtime for people to help clear this slate? And then I was explained by her very well how it works as the records custodian. And it's not just anybody to do this job. It has to be, Madam Clerk, to do that. And so I think it's a big deal to people understand that it's just not grabbing somebody off the street and start having them dig in. She has to do this job because she is responsible for everything she releases and her explanation of such. So I think that kind of covers some of your things. If I missed something, say something.
Nope, that's good. Like I said, I think this is fact-finding, more so than anything else this evening. But then my last question leads into, I think, some of Ms. Ginn's questions as well. There's a portion of this action sheet that says best practices for compliance, and bullet point number 4 says to forward constituent communications involving city business to the clerk for proper retention. So I guess, is that why in some instances there were emails in here that weren't specifically open record requests that, in theory, if I as an alder receive an email from one of my constituents asking a question about, let's just say, a house on Main Street hasn't cut their grass, what can I do about that? Am I to forward that email to the clerk's office? Is that what this is saying?
Well, the problem that we had was some constituents were going directly to like the head of the departments. And instead of going through me for the open records requests where we can track them and keep track of them, they were going directly to the head of the departments and asking for these open records requests.
So to clarify, it's if somebody reaches out to a department head, city staff, elected official, and they're asking for a document, that should come to you. But if they're just asking a question, that they can answer and they don't have to forward that to the clerk.
Right. Sometimes the question then turns into an open records request. Does that make sense? Like, it's a question, but then it's like, well, I would like a copy of this.
Right. Yeah. If they're asking, I understand that piece.
forth.
Yeah. If they're asking
Yeah.
for.
And we did have a department head meeting, and the mayor did tell all the department heads that if you get a request, like inspection, a lot of times they get the request directly to them. Now they're forwarding them to me and say, you need to go through the city clerk.
Yep.
And
Yep, I see those in here too, because I know for the health department, we'll get those. Have you ever had any complaints on this property somewhere or whatever? And those should go to you, so you have, yep, I understand that completely. I just wanted to make sure I understood, as I'm getting emails from people, what you're asking for as a copy that you have.
yeah, if they're looking for like a specific document or something like that, it's kind of a line that's kind of, you know what I mean? You have to look at it and back and forth. But the biggest thing that we had was, instead of going through me, because it takes me sometimes a little bit to get to the request, when they're going right to the department head, thinking that they would get the answer faster instead of going through me.
No, I can understand that.
That
Okay,
makes-
thank you. No, that's clarifying. Thank you.
Madam Director of Administration?
Specifically to Alderwoman Day's question, I can state that the director of IT has come to me after a day where there was, I think, 3 different open records requests that were pretty expansive. And in completing one, he told me he spent 4 hours of the day doing that. And we have some large IT projects going on where he doesn't have the time to spend doing that. So I think that from the request standpoint, we might need to look for somebody to help out with that. So that way he can manage what he needs to manage. I don't know. But that was a substantial concern, was the 4 hours that he spent on just running queries.
So if I could piggyback, there's 2 things. So one of the things that really tipped this off as well was a former elected that knows better, that was requesting things from our finance director, which was pretty substantial, which were absolutely an open records request. It wasn't just, hey, no, this was a pretty substantial request. And it's to the point where, okay, then she's like, well, I've got this going on, and it's got to go through the ORR path. And now we're learning from Jim Matulski, our IT director, that he's got a lot, so he's going to have to, bring staff members that he has up to speed. So this is a process. It's a process that's going to continue. This is an informational thing to get everybody educated on up here on how this works, how time consuming it is, costs associated with it. So yeah, there's going to be some ways in which we're going to try to perhaps streamline, but I'm going to the department heads that know their job better than anyone about what they need. Madam Clerk, what do you need? Jim, what do you need? That's what I'm doing. I'm going to them for them to solve their issues and problems, and how I can help facilitate that through you. Madam Director of Finance.
Just a brief comment to Alderwoman Eichmann's question about, is it costing the city money? The short answer is yes, but to the point of, we can only charge for time for the lowest paid person. And I will say, from the finance department, it is very rare, if at all, that any of my employees can really do the open records requests that are being asked. It's typically myself. So that's just, you can see that's a loss of money just right there. So if that's happening department-wide all the time, then it's a loss.
And it has to be over $50. You can't charge for under $50.
So further discussion, Alderwoman Eichmann?
I just was going to ask, what happens if somebody puts in a large open records request? You notify them of an approximate fee that it will be to process that request. The person, because it can be somebody who's a resident or a non-resident, gives permission to go ahead and they agree to that fee, and the records are ready, and they decide not to pay the fee, then what happens? I know that has happened of recent.
We've got
Yeah,
some.
we have multiple ones in the office that, before I was the clerk, sometimes they charged a fee up front, sometimes they did not. When I look at the amount of records that I have to look through to locate the documents, I kind of get an estimate. It's usually between $50, $100, or $150, depending upon how many I have, because I know kind of how long it takes me to look through those many. Then I'll request a upfront fee, and then they pay the fee. Once they pay the fee, then I start the request. okay? If they gave me more money, then we cut them a check back and give them the refund. If it's more, then I'll let them know that it's this much more, and they have to pay it before they get the records.
Thank you.
Alderman Sluse?
My question as follows. The idea that someone can come and ask for open record and at the end of the day would not make the payment, to be honest with you, that's ridiculous. Can we do as follows, like someone come with a request, take a credit card, like when you go to the gas station, you fill gas, the card locks $100 out of your money. Once you finish the filling, then basically they charge the actual amount that you used. Like, take the money in advance in a form of a credit card, whatever. When the request is done, you charge the card, and then basically the transaction is complete. I'm just like wondering, is that a possibility?
That would be a Danielle question. I don't know if we could do that.
I don't know the open records laws.
No, he
Oh,
wants to say that I
Right.
can hold.
So for credit card payments, no, we don't just hold them and then refund them back. We could do escrows for each and every open record request, but that's extremely lengthy and time consuming on the finance department in itself.
Yeah, I usually request a fee up front, and then I figure out, what it took me to do it. And I tell them, it was under the $50, so I can't charge you. Or if it's, let's say it was $95 and they gave me $100, then I would tell them, this is your request, this is what it costs, and you'll be getting a check back, which goes through you guys to refund the money back.
Is there a possibility that we can, we, the city, should not be losing money on this issue? We want to be open, we want it to be transparent, but at the same time, you don't want to, consume all your time, and because we have serious business to conduct here, we have a lot of issues on the table, and I'm just wondering who said this, it should be at the lowest, why can't we raise the price a little bit to compensate for the time, whoever is actually doing the work on it?
Well, I can read you something from the Attorney General. It says, compliance procedures as summarized in the Office of the Wisconsin Department of Justice, Office of the Attorney General Public Records Law Compliance Guide. Location costs. Costs associated with locating records may be charged if the total $50 or more. Locating a record means to find it by searching, examining, or experimenting. Subsequent review and redaction of the record are separate processes, not included in location of the record, for which a requester may not be charged. Only actual, necessary, and direct location costs are permitted. Generally, the rate of the actual, necessary, and direct charge for staff time should be based on the pay rate of the lowest paid employee capable of performing the task. That's the law. I mean, I can't. If it's under the $50, I can't charge them. If they require a flash drive, I can charge them. If it is under the $50, I can still require them to pay the $6.50 for the flash drive or copying.
The other point I have, how could we eliminate the need for the open record? It's just I'm for openness, I'm for transparency. How can we just basically eliminate the need for someone to come and ask for open records? What is wrong with people going to ask the heads of the department about property inspection at no charge? If I know I can get the information from the inspection department at no charge, why, and I can get it a lot faster, why do I have to come and contact the city clerk? I need to know information about this or that issue if I can get it from the departments. Why do we kind of trying to channel everything to your office rather than to the heads of the department?
Well, it's the constituents' right to file open records. I mean, they have the right to file it. They can file one every day or 5 times a day.
But
Please
they have
don't.
still the chance to go to the heads of the department and ask their.
Well, the municipal code in that states that the city clerk is the custodian of the records, so it has to go through the city clerk.
But if I want to know about inspection record of a property, so
Then you would send me the request of the property, because I get these all the time. You'd send me the address, what you want. I'd send it to the inspection. And then Amy would send me back saying, here it is. It took me 10 minutes, and then I would forward it on to the person.
And that would be considered an open record request.
Correct.
Absolutely, 100%.
But I still did not get, what about if I go to the department and say, I want to know the record of inspection of this property? What's wrong with that?
No, you have to go through the city clerk. See, we were having that problem where people were going to the departments, and then there's no way of tracking any of that. So it should be going through the city clerk, all open records. So now they're sending them, when they get them, they're sending them to me now. And then I, will send it back to Amy. It sounds mundane, but that's the process. Then I put it on my chart, and then I print the document and I keep them in a filing cabinet.
Yeah, I feel that's part of the crowding your life with because like there's a lot of people have just a normal average questions about issues here and there, to go through the city clerk with an open record request. I believe that.
Well, if it's, let me
Yeah.
clear something. I think we're getting fogged here.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is if you want to contact the planning manager and you've got a question about, hey, I want to put up a new fence, that's not an open records request. That's simply something that they will answer you. But if you want to assign an assignment like Director Brown had with all this, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this, oh, and I know how quickly you can get it, that's ridiculous. That's an ORR. So what you're talking about is done every day, not a problem, not an issue.
Right.
But this is different. When you're tasking people for information that you need, that is an ORR.
I guess. Good. Thanks.
You're welcome. Alderman Craig.
Thanks. I have a couple questions then. Is this going to be something that we see on the regular, where we see, in 6 months' time, a version of this log starting today to 6 months from now? Or is this a one-time thing, or are we going to see this grow every time that we see this?
Well, my goal by having this tonight was an awareness, okay? If we need to have an update of where we're at with open records requests, how many are you behind? What are the fees? Do you have a list of people here, what is it, 9, that owe us money for a request? We can do this whenever you want. We can have updates, not, including all this stuff, just numbers. We can go with some sheer numbers without putting this, but it's also, as electeds, that's something that's viewable. I mean, this is a public record itself. So when you ask, is this going to be coming back? I don't know. Do we need to? Maybe. I mean, I just want to make sure she's good, staff is good, and all of you understand how this system works. And if we need to bring something back, we will. But at this point, I thought this was very comprehensive and thorough.
Yeah, I agree that there is a lot of data and information in here. I do have concerns, and I have a worry about where there will be individuals that will look at this document and maybe have a chilling effect as far as, do I want to engage and ask those questions and get that information, because I don't want to be put on a list.
But it's public record. You have to be put on the list. You have to be put on a list for her to fulfill that record.
Sure, but
But before I started doing this chart, I originally started doing it for my own, to keep track. And when I talk to the person, go back and forth and all of that. I've had people in the past say, I want all the open records requests that John Smith has submitted.
Yep, I see a couple of
Yeah,
them.
so I have to go through all the open records and copy all what's there.
I think that, like, for example, on page 639, an individual wanting to know the cost breakdown for the Franklin School expansion, which,
That I sent directly. I explained to
Yep,
them
and
that goes to.
not something that,
Correct.
we take care of. That's the
Correct.
school district that takes care of. And, as we are unique in having 3 school districts
Correct.
within the city limits.
Yep. Yeah, that I forward, right, I tell them
I
they have
think
to
that-
contact the,
And then, on page 507, as Ms. Gint did say that it's a correspondence with me regarding whether or not there were going to be the signs put up for no parking in our neighborhood. Wasn't a request of, is there something being, it was just a, is this going to be done? This isn't a, I want information about emails, correspondence, or anything like that, licenses or of the like. And then on 493,
Oh, do you want her to answer that?
oh, sure.
I thought it was an asterisk thing with. Well, the question was the example of an email requesting if there's going to be signage put up in the neighborhood. And I thought that was part of that asterisk.
Yeah,
or
the
that-
asterisk was
Well,
that.
could you explain what the
The
asterisk is?
asterisks were records that went directly to staff, if that makes sense. So I was.
But they were not counted as open records requests unless staff had to respond back with
Correct,
research.
correct. Yeah.
And then 493, there's one request where there's no item as far as what was requested.
Right, I had to go back and try to go through the prior clerk's open records, okay? I could only go through what I could find. All I could find, are you talking about the Oz? Yeah, okay, so I could find that an open records request was done by some documentation that was written out, but nowhere on it did it say what the request was. And that person does, and that person, I don't want to, they did get I know that they got documentation because there was a dollar amount involved in it. So I know there was a request. I don't know what the request was because I don't know where all that documentation is. Does that make sense? I tried to go back. I was to go back to May 1st of 2023. And I was not the clerk then, so we tried to go through the files that I had, to try to figure out, the requests that were done before.
This is the most organized it's been. When I was dealing with the former and I asked, I said, where is your Excel document that tracks this stuff? Because you should have that. And there wasn't one. It was this in a folder, handwritten, and I knew that was going to be a problem when somebody wanted to know what it was. So when Shirley became the city clerk, that's when she underwent this project of organization and properly categorizing things, and this is where we're at now. So the things that you're referencing were pre-her. So and she explained the issues and challenges she had trying to get relevant information prior to her being the city clerk.
Okay. And lastly, is there, I think that was already answered, so, okay, thank you.
Any further discussion on this? Alderwoman Eichman and Alderman Pecorelli.
Just briefly, I'm sorry, but I disagree with Alderman Craig's statement that this will discourage anyone from putting in an open records request because their name's on here. We're not sitting here at the tally saying resident A did 23 open records requests in May. And I mean, this isn't a list of shame. This is just a list of reality and factual work that our city clerk is doing. So it shouldn't deteriorate against anyone from wanting to put in a request, in my opinion. It shouldn't stop anything. We're not sitting here shaming anyone. So why would it stop anyone from wanting to put in a request? I don't understand. And one last question is, what do you do when someone puts in an anonymous request?
Great question. That's the latest.
Yeah. If they give me, well, they don't say anonymous. They'll like Tom T. I'm just making that up. So Tom T. Yeah. Or I'll use my name. Shirley R. puts in a request for this and that. I have to honor that request. Okay. They don't have to give me their full name or real name.
Okay.
So any request that I get for open records requests, I have to honor. They send me it by email, so I send the request back by email. I don't know if Shirley R. is a real person or if it's a make-up name. I can't
When it,
make that decision if you're real and you're not.
but when it would come time for Shirley R. to pay, how do you collect those funds?
Well, then I would let them know and tell them that if I have money that has to be paid or a payment has to be done, then I will send them an email first before I start the open records request, because I have done some in the past where I start them and then they say, well, no, cancel it. Okay, so I don't even start them anymore now. So, but yeah, but I mean, they have to then come in and pay. Whoever Shirley R. is would have to pay then.
And I just wanted to end my statements with, in the past, when I've had questions on open records request, Shirley has been very helpful, or I can go into her office if I have questions, or if my constituents have questions as to where their open request is in the queue of things and so forth. So I encourage other alders to do that. And we can look at this list at any time we want as elected officials. Doesn't have to be printed in the packet for us to see it. We can walk into cordially, not interrupting the project, but we can walk into Shirley's office at any time and take a look at the open records request, just for knowledge if you want to, in case for those that are new up here and not aware. And I yield, thank you.
Alderman Peccarelli, unless you have a comment on that, Madam Clerk.
No,
Alderman Peccarelli.
No.
So there was, I noticed in here, there was some, I'll call it handful, that had costs that associated with it, but most of them didn't. Would you be able to provide some background as to?
Yes, I just recently started putting the costs in there. Like I said, this originally was for my personal, I'm not personal use, but city use to keep track of all these. And I was not putting, you know what I mean? When they make the payment, I attach the payment receipt to the request, and then I file it in a drawer. Just recently, I started adding, you know, what they pay, or if it's under $50, I can't charge, stuff like that. So I just recently started doing that for my own benefit.
Thank you. And then my second item is, I think it kind of goes off of Alderman Craig's question around like what going forward. So we kind of have this list of up to now, right? Since the beginning, you started tracking this till now,
Well,
2 years or so.
I went back to May 1st of 2023, to the best, I mean, that,
Yeah, to about 2 years. We got about 2 years.
Correct.
And so is getting back to kind of what's the go forward, because it seems like, so we put this together, we give a bunch of information, we could have, like statistics, like we're going to give, hey, we had X number of requests and this many filled and everything, we wouldn't have had to give 200 and whatever pages in here that it was. So I guess I'm a little confused as the go forward associated with this. And so that's where I think from our previous meeting, there was a discussion around that, you know, council has certain responsibility in the open records process. And so, and some of it was to understand that this stuff is actually occurring, that we don't have, that things aren't being fulfilled and things like that, right? So giving visibility to that. And so honestly, from that discussion, I think we have to have some sort of visibility to that. I don't know what that needs to be, I guess.
I mean, I could come back every January and say, okay, last year we had, you know, I did kind of add them up from May 1st to the 31st in 23. We had 195. In 2024, we had 229. And in 2025, we've got 120 so far.
And if we just had an idea of maybe the total in fees or something that gives us like the volume too, because again, getting back to your point, you got totals, but you could have 50 in there that take a huge amount of time and everything like that. And then also.
Right, and under $50, we don't charge.
Correct. But and so I follow that. And so those would typically be on the smaller end of how much time they take to collect that information. The other part would be, I just lost what I was going to ask. It was the amount of time and
Amount of time is kind of hard, though.
yeah, but I'm getting that through the fees. It just like total, not individual, but total. If we charged, you know, we collected 500 or something like that, it gives you an idea of, you know, what.
Yeah, I think the mayor just wanted this more for like just informational purposes, so you guys are aware of how the process works and how many that we've had. Just to give you some, because around like an election year, we got a lot more. I mean, I got a lot of stuff around election time for how many people voted, how many this, how many, overseas. You get a lot of that stuff in an election year.
Oh, I remember, the other item I was gonna ask is, what the longest one for that period of time was to fill, just in general terms? Because I know you're trying to turn them around quickly, but just so
I
we,
do my best. I mean, and I treat everybody the same. It doesn't matter. I don't care who puts the request in. I treat them all the same, and I do them in the order that, some of them may come in after, but if I sent it like to Danielle and she sends it back to me that same day, I'm not going to hold on to it till I get to that one in the pile. I'm going to send that information out to that person. So,
And I could just state that starting in 2024, we created an account line item to specifically separate copying charges for revenue and open record requests.
so we have.
So it's starting in 2024, it's a simple click
Okay.
of the button and I can see. And I think you may have asked from my chair, obviously I don't see every single transaction, but I remember at least seeing one for $400+ that somebody has paid. There may have even been like a $700 or $800. Like there are some very small ones, but there have been, just in the last 2 years that I've been here, some significant amount of payment that people have paid for requests as well.
Okay.
Further discussion, if seeing none, is there a motion to receive and place on file?
I'll make the motion to receive and place on file.
Is there a second? First and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. I'm going to read this to go into closed session, and we're going to take a 10-minute recess. So, a motion to enter into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, sub 1, sub F as in Frank, considering financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons, preliminary consideration of specific personnel, problems, or in the investigation of charges against specific persons except for where Part B applies, which, if discussed in public, would be likely to have a substantial adverse effect upon the reputation of any person referred to in such histories or data or involved in such problems or investigations, and public records in relation thereto, and Wisconsin State Statute 905.03, lawyer-client privilege, and Wisconsin Statute 19.35, sub 1, right to inspection with regard to the Andrew Pelkey open records request, and to re-enter open session at the same place thereafter to act on such matters discussed therein as it deems appropriate. Is there a motion?
Motion to go into closed.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Roll call on that, please.
Alderman Peccarelli,
No.
Alderwoman Eichman,
Aye.
Alderman Assam,
Aye.
Alderwoman Day,
Aye.
Alderman Salus,
Aye.
Alderman Craig.
No.
So we got 4 ayes, 2 noes, motion carries. We are going into closed session. Please advise when. And then make the notice, Heary. It's 9:04 PM. We are back in open session. Counselor, would you mind giving us a suggested motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd be happy to. The motion would be to release the records discussed in closed session, subject to notice requirements under 19.356 of the Wisconsin statutes.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Craig,
Aye.
Alderman Salus,
Aye.
Alderwoman Day,
Aye.
Alderman Assam,
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichman,
Aye.
Alderman Peccarelli.
Aye.
6 ayes, no nos, motion carries. Excellent. Thank you, Counselor.
I second.
Thank you, Mayor.
We will go on to G as in George 22. A motion under closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, sub 1, sub E as in Edward, for market competition and bargaining reasons to deliberate and consider terms relating to potential commercial, industrial, manufacturing developments and proposals, and the investing of public funds and governmental actions in relation thereto, and to effect such developments, including the terms and provisions of potential development agreements. 4, including but not limited to the properties at the southeast corner of South Oakwood Park Drive and West Ryan Road, and to re-enter open session at the same place thereafter to act on such matters discussed therein as it deems appropriate.
Motion to go into close.
Second.
First and a second. Let's do roll call. I like when we do roll call. See? All right, we're off the rails already. Nobody knows nothing.
Alderman Peccarelli.
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Aye.
Alderman Hassan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Day.
Aye.
Alderman Salus.
Aye.
Alderman Craig.
Aye.
Actually, this week is going to be,
All right, 9:15 PM, we are back in open session. There is no action to be taken on that item discussed. We are going to now, at a lightning pace, go to item H as in Henry, licensing. Who's taking licensing? Alderwoman Eichman, you've got the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. License Committee met this evening. The first extraordinary entertainment special event permit is approved pending certification of the COI. The next extraordinary event and special event, this was a case, if you read on here, the date was on the original application by the developer, but it was accidentally missed by the clerk's office. It was Alderman Craig and myself in licensing this evening. I voted to approve it. Alderman Craig voted to deny it. It was originally on their application. It's right in the folder. Somehow there's a clerical, things happen, we're not perfect. There's a clerical mistake on our end. So we will need to make a decision.
Separate action on that one.
Separate action. Then let's go right ahead. We have the first operator new for Target approved. The second operator for Lux approved. Croatian Park approved. The applicant for Crossroads Pizza and Subs is approved pending correction of their application. The last two on here for the Franklin Lioness Club, full disclosure, I'm not a lioness, so I do not need to abstain, and the On Cloud Wine are both approved. Moving along to page 2. The first two for the same applicant under Ricky's Double Barrel is approved pending correction of application. Then we have the next 5 from Crystal Ridge down to Target for last name Chrisman, all approved. Then we have the next Target is correction of application.
You can say their name. Because it's
Alec Gilbert, pending correction of application. Oscar Gonzalez, approved. Helena Grokowski, approved, pending correction of application. Amber Helm, approved. Barbara Hughes, we had a question for the clerk's office and the city attorney. I've got a note on here for the clerk's office. Her background check was done under her married name. It was never done under her prior maiden name, so we just want that to be looked at again. Then as we go to page 3, everything on here is approved with no issues.
good.
Page 4, Denise Wadinsky, apology for pronunciation.
Widinsky.
Approved. Julie Wildziris.
Jesus.
Approved. KinderCare. Approved pending them providing the list of staff. The Franklin Lioness Lions Club approved. And Franklin Place Memory Care Car Show has been approved.
So what we'll do, so we'll go with all that, and then I'll go back to take a separate action. So on everything except the fireworks, we got a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
You have a second. Let's do, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Now going back to separate action, and this will be a roll call vote. So is there a motion, even though this was already approved, is there a motion to include July 18th fireworks? It was on the original application. Is there a motion to approve the singular date of July 18th for the fireworks?
I'll make the motion.
So we've got a first. Is there a second? Really?
Just have a question.
Well, we got a first, and now we're gonna go to question Alderwoman Day, but we have a first. Remember that.
The 7/18 date, that, to make sure that I'm understanding this correctly, because I was unable to attend License Committee, the 7/18/25 date was one of the 10. But so they're not adding an 11th date. This was one of the 10.
Correct.
Madam Clerk, please explain that,
Yep.
because this error, if it costs them that, it'd be a terrible thing.
It was a typo from our
Yep.
office not to include it in the original. It was on the original application. When it's typed onto the agenda, that date was missed.
Okay, so it's part,
So we wanted for openness, we wanted to bring it back
Sure.
and make sure, but it was on the original application. They're not adding anymore. It was one of the original.
okay. So part of the original 10, I will second the motion.
So we have a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Craig.
No.
Alderman Salus.
Aye.
Alderman Day.
Aye.
Or Alderwoman Day, sorry.
Okay, aye.
Alderman Hassan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Aye.
Alderman Peccarelli.
Aye.
5 ayes, 1 no, motion carries. Going into item I as in Ida, we've got 3 points. This will also be a roll call. City vouchers with an ending date of May 29th, 2025, in the amount of $2,346,817.60. Point 2, payroll dated May 30th, 2025, in the amount of $474,328.12, and payments of the various payroll reductions in the amount of $507,035.80, plus city matching payments, and estimated payroll dated June 13th. That's an important date, 2025, in the amount of $444,000, and payments of the various payroll deductions in the amount of $263,000 plus city matching payments.
So moved.
Second.
First and a second, roll call, please.
Alderman Peccarelli.
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Aye.
Alderman Hassan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Day.
Aye.
Alderman Salus.
Aye.
Alderman Craig.
Aye.
6 ayes, no nos, motion carries. Is there a motion to adjourn at 9:22 PM?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. We're off the record.